Marie-Julie Jahenny. Hell will launch an ultimate struggle against my representative. Of course, the true or exiled Pope. So once again, we see the Pope being persecuted, okay? Hell will launch an ultimate struggle against the Pope. Continuing another quote here. A Pope will suffer torment beyond his powers. He will be discarded and sidelined. Prophecy of, the first one was from, it said, Our Blessed Lord to Marie-Julie Jahenny on September 29th, 1878. And this second quote here says, Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on August 5th, 1878. Note, Pope Gregory XVII, upon his election, was faced with a violent war from the communists, Freemasons, etc., and he was discarded and sidelined, being publicly replaced by anti-Pope John the 23rd. This is exactly what happened, okay? It's not about sedevacantism, is not what's happening. The Pope being sidelined, persecuted, imprisoned, exiled, all this stuff. That is what is happening. Another prophecy here. Never, never will a storm have been so strong against any other pontiff. This is the prophecy I was talking about in the section about, the historical information, when it talks about, when the video mentioned the overwhelming force of evil, basically, that was against Gregory XVII. Yeah, this prophecy says, never, never will a storm have been so strong against any other pontiff. He is already a martyr before undergoing martyrdom. He is suffering before the hour has come, but he offers his own person and the blood of his veins for all his torturers and for those who are making terrible attempts upon his life. How many exiles to be suffered? Revelation of Marie-Julie Jahenny, who died in 1941 AD. Note, no pope in history found himself in as dire a situation as Pope Gregory XVII upon his election in 1958, surrounded on all sides by infiltrators, traitors, and servants of the devil, and no help from any temporal power. Another quote here. It is me who will give you this pontiff. Pray for him. He will have under his sight a fierce revolt. Until his death, his hand will hold on unto the cross and won't let it go. Pray, I beg you, pray, because the faith and religion will be crushed under the feet of those criminals. So once again, note the Lord said there would be a pope who is faced with the fierce revolt, not sedevacantism. The Pope suffering, being persecuted, and having to suffer through this revolution, this apostate Antichrist revolution. Okay? That's what happened to Pope Gregory XVII. The Pope will be attacked and taken prisoner. All ecclesiastical authorities, i.e. those in union with him, will be persecuted. At first, they will be allowed to practice their ministry. Then they will be removed from their posts, and then order will come for their departure. The wicked will take their place. New types of ceremonies will be put in place against the faith and divine laws. Look at this again. The Pope will be attacked and taken prisoner. Nothing about sedevacantism. The Pope being taken prisoner, as Gregory XVII was, basically held hostage by Freemasons and communists and stuff for decades. New types of ceremonies will be put in place, right, against the faith and divine laws. The so-called Novus Ordo Mass, the Freemasonic, new order of so-called Mass, is the new type of ceremony put in place, and perhaps also illicit and unauthorized SSPX and sedevacantist false masses. Okay? New types of ceremonies, not real Catholic masses. false so-called masses. The Pope will be attacked and taken prisoner. Wait, is this, why do I have the same? Okay, I have the same quote twice for some reason. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. All right, let's just look and see if there's anything different. Let's see here. It says Pope Gregory XVII was taken prisoner and kept under constant surveillance by the communists and Masons at his episcopal palace in Genoa. So yeah, he was taken prisoner, held hostage for decades, that kind of stuff. Yes. He will not have a voice like the past pontiffs, but he will continue to provide for his children and the infallible church. And the previous one, what was the date on that? It said, let me see. Okay. It says, Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on September 19th, 1881. And then this one, let's read again. He will not have a voice like the past pontiffs, but he will continue to provide for his children and the infallible church. Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on January 11th, 1881. Note, this is self-explanatory. Neither Siri nor Gregory XVIII have the normal public presence and voice of past popes. But there is still a pope in the catacombs, okay? So he will not have a voice like the past pontiffs. Why? Because he's unknown to most of the world. That is why he doesn't have a public voice or the same, clear and visible voice that, previous popes had. And what's the date for this one? It says Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on January 11th, 1881. Okay. The church will be deprived of her supreme chief who is now governing her. For a fairly long time, the church will be deprived of prayer and offices. She will be exiled by God and from his chosen ones. In deep mourning, the church will no longer hear the ringing of her bells. From the eyes of the church, I see tears of distress flowing down. Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on March 29th, 1881. Note, sedevacantist and SSPX false masses are public and ringing bells. Those with the true pope are not. And I remember probably about 2 years ago, I knew a sedevacantist. And when I saw this prophecy or remembered this prophecy, I asked him, does your, quote unquote church, of course it is a quote unquote, but like, does your, quote unquote church, do you ring bells before, the so-called mass? And he said, yeah, they ring a bell. And I was like, interesting. And if this is to be taken, literally, like real masses are not ringing bells anywhere, that's another indicator right there that the so-called mass he's going to, it's not a real Catholic mass. Because real Catholic masses aren't ringing any bells right now. Because they're like basically not, they're not, I don't know of any public ones, and there may no longer be any public real masses. They may all really be like just in caves, in barns, etc., and not ringing bells. Okay, so I say this kind of like, of course, I have a sense of humor, as some of you probably can already tell. So I say this partly with a bit of humor, but also partly quite seriously. If the so-called mass you go to is ringing bells, get out of there. Get out of there. Of course, though, I mean, you shouldn't be going to any so-called mass that is not, conducted by authorized church authority in union with the true pope. So you shouldn't go to any sedevacantist so-called masses, SSPX so-called masses, obviously not Novus Ordo so-called masses, right? Get away from those schismatics and heretics and stuff. You're not supposed to be going to their so-called masses, okay? All right, let's see here. Continuing. And where was the date for that one? It said Prophecy of Marie-Julie Jahenny on March 29th, 1881, okay? Another quote here. Within a short time, daughter, only a few priests will be left who will obey the luminous voice which is the command of all men on earth, as the chief of the most holy church. Our blessed Lord to Marie-Julie Jahenny on October 27th, 1884. Note, finding a priest in communion with the true Pope is like finding a unicorn today. It's going to be like extremely difficult. Of course, there's a bit of exaggeration there. But yeah, you're going to finding a real priest today, extremely difficult.